is going to help you eat healthier. Balanced meals every time. So making sure when you're thinking about your meals, all of the different components. On this little first resource that I gave you, you can see that the My Plate's in the corner there. That's the guideline for how we would like your plate to look at each meal. And I'm pretty sure, like, I don't get all of these all the time in every meal, but if you're planning ahead, you can think about that and make, intentional choices about what you're including in your meals. So thinking about all of those different things ahead of time, you're in control, which is one of the things that I feel is important. We haven't had 2 years of unexpected, things going on in the world, and I mean, it's always like that, but at least with your health, your nutrition, you can have some control, right? You can make choices about what you can eat and your health outcomes. We know that a fruit and vegetable, with lean proteins and low-fat dairy and whole grains, we know that actually puts you at a lower risk for heart disease, which is the #1, killer of women. There's all women in this room, so it's a huge thing. Type 2 diabetes, being overweight, which is not necessarily makes you unhealthy, but it can put you at risk for some of those other things, right? High cholesterol, high blood pressure. So save time, again, time saver. Save money. If you are making your own foods, you're not eating out, and I know eating out is very expensive, okay? I get super busy at work, I'm like, oh, well, I'm just gonna Uber Eats it. That adds up, right? Or I'm just gonna go pick up something quick. Even if you're eating at a drive-thru at a fast food restaurant, it's expensive. So saving money, reducing food waste. As a gardener, I like to compost things, right? And then also working at the food bank, I see how many families are in need. We want to preserve as much food as we possibly can. So reducing food waste is important. And then less dishes. I'm not one to argue with that because, if you're not cooking all the time and you're prepping ahead of time, you're not having to clean dishes after each time. So that's also, helps the environment. And reduce stress. Again, it's stressful enough being a human on this earth, and then having to make choices about what am I going to eat? Okay, I don't know. What's in the fridge? I got to get this out. It just eliminates the stress of eating, because it can be a stressful thing to just like eat healthy, and we have to eat to be alive. So these are some of the benefits. I'm sure you all know this, but it's just good for you to get that refresher so that you're like, yes, I'm going to meal prep. So meal prep goals. So what I think is super important is nutritional goals, right? Why are you doing this? And this is important to think about. What are your needs? Are you trying to lose weight because you have a chronic illness like type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or heart disease? Or are you just like, what, I'm always eating like a sausage McMuffin for breakfast and it's not healthy and I'm spending money, so I want to focus on breakfast. Is it lunch? So these are the things that you need to consider. Which area do you want to focus on? These are the things that we as a team at the food bank and the Nutrition, Health, and Wellness Department have put together. We think like an easy grab-and-go breakfast because it's the morning, you're getting started, you're just waking up, you're trying to drink your coffee for the first time. You want something that's easy, and that's why we say easy grab-and-go meals are good in the morning, right? For lunch, vegetable focus, because we tend to make protein, not all of us, maybe you don't, but I think in general, we make protein the highlight of the meal, right? Okay? And then we think about the vegetables on the side. Vegetable forward, they call it like plant-based eating. Again, Mediterranean diets that don't eat as much red meats, focus more on fish and lean proteins, and then plant-based protein like beans and lentils. Those we know, again, are going to give you a satisfied feeling of being full because they have what in them? Does anyone know? Not protein, but starts with an F. Fiber, exactly. So vegetables have a lot of fiber. So we want to focus on that fiber. We need fiber in our gut to be healthy. We know it keeps us regular, but also very important, especially if you're trying to focus on losing weight or trying to keep your blood sugars low, slows down the absorption of sugar in your blood. So I say this every class probably, but the difference between eating an orange versus drinking orange juice is that the orange has fiber. So when you're eating an orange, your blood sugar slowly goes up, versus when you drink orange juice, it just like skyrockets and then drops, right? You want steady, long, sustainable energy. And I think of food as fuel. You want the best type of fuel, right? So vegetable focused. You do want to make sure you have enough protein, but again, beans, lentils, hard-boiled eggs, we don't always have to go toward meat. Nothing wrong with meat, but just saying we have other options, right? For dinner, quick, colorful meals. Again, it's the end of the day. You've maybe had a long day. You want something quick, fast. So we say quick, colorful meals. The more color in your foods, the better. So eating the colors of the rainbow, if you're looking at your plate and you're missing color and all you see is white and brown and a little bit more brown on top of the white, you may need to add, just think, what can I add that's colorful? Do I like tomatoes? Do I like bell peppers, yellow, red, purple onion? What can I add to this? Not so much what am I going to take away, what am I not going to eat? Because I feel like we come from a mind of scarcity a lot when we're thinking about food and healthy. We're like, oh, we can't eat donuts and we can't eat this and we can't eat that. Well, what can you add? Where is your abundance mindset, right? Where can you get creative and think, okay, what kind of vegetables do I like? What can I add to my meal? So eating colorful phytonutrients, which is a very fancy word for plant nutrients, are the colors in our plants that we eat. And we know that they have protective properties against some digestive cancers, again, chronic illnesses. So many benefits to eating healthy, but meal prep is going to help you to do that. So how can I start meal prep? 1, 2, 3 steps. Okay, these are the main steps. I'm going to see if this video will work. I'm not sure. It's a really great video. EatRight.org is a group of registered dietitians. When I say registered dietitian, that means a medical professional that has been medically trained in nutrition and eating. Medical doctors, they've been trained in how to treat diseases. Now, they use medicines, right? Prescriptions. They're ready with their pen pad to write you a prescription. A registered dietitian is treating you with food, okay? So speak to a registered dietitian if you haven't before. They're a great resource for you. But they have a website called EatRight.org. It's a group of, nationally registered dietitians, and they have this really great video. It's 2 minutes, not too long. So think of meal prep. What do you need to feel more in control of? Think about your struggles. You need healthier breakfast. You need to quit spending all your money on lunch. Maybe getting dinner on the table in 20 minutes, right? It's easier said than done. I know this, but take time to challenge the challenges that you have. It'll make it more useful, and you'll be more likely to follow through with it. Choose your prep ahead foods to meet your needs. So choose a make ahead recipe that will be easy to make in a big batch that tastes good. So there's 2 different types of recipes. There's big batch recipes, right? Stews, casseroles, soups, and then you have your mix and match components. So that's the 2 different ways you can meal prep, okay? Mix and match meal components I do like because you can not get bored, right? You're eating the same soup for 3 days, you're like, ugh, I'm sick of this. So maybe doing both, right? Maybe making one big batch and then one where you actually separate out different components of your meal. So look at here, pots of grains are great. So they mention like you can do brown rice, but there's quinoa, there's barley, you can get creative. There's all kinds of different grains now. So choosing a whole grain, whole meaning it has fiber in it, right? The whole grain is intact. If you're buying stuff that's just white rice or even just your white bread or pastas that are regular, not whole grain, they don't have the fiber, okay? So you're just getting all of the starch, which is essentially the sugar, and will break down into sugar, and if you have too much in your diet, gets stored as fat. So whole grain, at least half of the time is the goal, right? Half of the time. Corn is also considered a whole grain. So mix and match components, roasted vegetables. I feel like vegetables, again, are super important to have as a part of this. So thinking about vegetables that you can incorporate into your big batch as well. And then hard-boiled eggs are great, okay? They're inexpensive. You can create a a dressing that you could put on hard-boiled eggs. You're not just eating plain old hard-boiled eggs unless you like hard-boiled eggs that way, but you can get creative. You don't just have to eat hard-boiled eggs or putting them on top of a salad. If you have your vegetables, you know, you have a little container of lettuce that you have, maybe you have some hard-boiled eggs, and then you have your dressing, and then you have a, you know, different vegetables that you can throw into the salad with it. So getting creative that way. Chicken thighs, baked tofu, you can eat those things all week long. Usually those things last about 2 to 3 days. I would say 3 days is the max for animal protein, so your chicken, your beef, your pork. I don't love reheated seafood, that's just me, but canned salmon and canned tunas are great and inexpensive compared to fresh. But yes, these are things that you would do, either the mix and match component or a full batch recipe. Any questions about that? Okay. So make a written, once you know what you want to eat for the week, right? You've made your list of items. You're like, okay, I'm going to do a turkey chili for one day for lunch, and then I'm just going to choose lunch because lunch is, I feel like, my pain point, right? I'm always wanting to spend money on lunch. And then I'm going to do my mixed grains with my roasted vegetables and protein here on the next day. So you've made your list for the week, and then I'm going to alternate. Maybe Monday, Wednesday, I'll have the turkey chili. Tuesday, Thursday, I'll do the mixed, right? And we'll see about Friday. But I'm just choosing 4 days because I'm just starting off slow, right? So then you've made your list on your calendar. Now you know what you want to accomplish. What do you need to cook? Think about what you need to cook. Okay, I need to cook my chili, so I need to cook my turkey. I need to make sure I have tomato sauce. I need to make sure that I have my onions for my chili. I need to make sure I have garlic, right? Now you know what you need, and then look for ways to double up. So because you're cooking different things, am I going to put something in the oven at the same time as I'm putting stuff on the stove? Am I going to roast my vegetables while I do my turkey chili on the stove? Okay, that way you save time and you're thinking about where you're going to use those other ingredients. I'm not using the whole onion for my chili maybe, so I'm going to chop that onion up, put it in the oven, and let that roast so that I have it for my side for whatever protein and grain I choose, right? So thinking about that. Making your shopping list. Okay, so how many of you use the My Plate or think about your shopping list in your different food groups? I mean, I really have now that I'm a nutritionist, but before I did nutrition, I never made a shopping list like, okay, vegetables, what am I going to eat? Grains, what am I going to eat? But I try to have balanced meals for my family, okay? I have 2 young children, I have a husband. I want them to be healthy. I want myself to be healthy. So now I'm like, oh wait, I have a bunch of meats on my list, but I don't have, what are we going to do for sides? Right? So I have to think about sides. So thinking about your balanced My Plate, right? When you're planning your meals is super important. You want to have all the different components. So I like this grocery list because it breaks it up by food. And if you think about going to the grocery store, these are the items that are on the outside, the perimeter. They say shop the perimeter of the store. Your vegetables, right? Your protein, your dairy, right? So these are the things. The only thing you might need to go to the middle for is some grains. But sometimes they have like a bulk section. You can go buy grains in bulk. Maybe you've never tried quinoa and you're like, I'm not sure if I want to invest in a whole container. Just go buy enough for one recipe and see if you like it. So I know that the Seguin here in HEB has, the HEB here in Seguin has a bulk section. So you can try some grains there as well. But this is just a way for you to break it up, right? Break it up by the My Plate. Think about what components you want in your meals and where are you missing things. So now you've made your shopping list, you've picked your recipes, you've planned your meals for the week, you've made your shopping list. Now it's time to get to the actual task of starting to prep your meals. So always start with a clean kitchen, clean sink, clean dishwasher. It will make it less stressful for you. Set out your clean containers for putting things away. So you want to have everything in order, right? Get your containers out. Have your meal prep containers out. If you're using individual containers that aren't like this, then have them out and think about, okay, I'm going to put my roasted vegetables in this one, proteins in this one. That way, once it's ready, you're not like, oh, I got to put it on a plate and got to get my containers out. And then you're like, I don't know about this meal prep stuff. This is too stressful. So make sure you're thinking about getting your containers out on a clean surface before you start this whole process. okay? You can definitely reuse those. These are reusable. I believe that they are freezer, microwave, and dishwasher safe. So these are great to invest in. I say if you are going to invest in any type, and I'll give you a list of kind of items that you would want to invest in, but if you're going to invest in anything, get good containers. That is the best thing you can invest in. I like the Pyrex ones, or the ones that are kind of glass, because you can put them in the oven, you can put them in, they are great in the freezer, they're easy to use, and they're more durable long-term than the plastic ones. Plastic ones are fine if you're just starting out, but if you really want to start like meal prepping seriously for a long term, because you know how sometimes you put spaghetti in a container and then you wash it and there's still like the stains from the tomato in there, and you're like, what is going on with that? So after a while it does start to leach some of the different flavors and things from other things. So these are a good starter kit, but if you want to do long term, maybe spending a little bit more on the glass ones are great. But either way, as long as you have a container, you're good. Moving on. So a little bit more on food prep. Store all of your foods individually. Okay, if you are doing like lunches, this is fine because you're going to eat it within a couple days, and see how there's individual little sections. Don't just get a big container and just throw the chicken in there with the, the onions and the rice. Why would you not want to do that? Anyone know? Pretty basic. It's food contamination, right? We want to separate our foods. That's food safety 101. Separate your foods. You don't want to put something that potentially maybe the chicken didn't get cooked all the way, and then now the whole container is bad, right? So put them in separate containers also because it makes it easier for you to decide and not get bored. Like, you certainly could, but I won't think that's going to make a big difference. If it has some bacteria in there, and the foil's not going to protect the bacteria from getting to the other pieces. So if it's a meat protein, if you have plant-based protein, like I think this picture here has some falafel balls in there, it's probably okay, just because meat tends to be more higher risk, right? And warming up your foods to the proper temperature. So if you're doing a meat protein, it's good to have it in a separate container, because then you're able to warm it up to the proper temperature, and then you're not risking the other stuff getting contaminated, right? So make large dishes that freeze well. So if you are making large dishes, remember, like, you can get bored in a few days. So make them into individual containers. You can even get the freezer bag, just the Ziplocs, and put them into individually sized, portions. And then you have a couple of different ones after you've done it a few times. So that if you are looking to meal prep for dinner, your lunch meal prep has suddenly also become dinner meal prep, right? Maybe a few weeks down the road, you've forgotten about whatever stew that you made, and it's in the bag, and you're like, oh, I have that to defrost, so I can eat that for dinner tonight. So after you've done it a few times, you have a stockpile of options, right? After you've made those big batches. Curries are great, stews are great. Meatballs in sauce, I usually like to keep them in the sauce just because they get dry after they've been in the freezer for a while, so you want to put them in some kind of something to keep them moist. You can eat them just frozen, but they tend to lose after a while their texture, right? The moisture. If leftover food isn't your thing, meal prep just the ingredients so you can easily cook something up every night, right? You're not like, I'm really not into just like having stuff in containers. Okay, then put everything separate. That way you can throw it into the saute pan. I love one pot meals. I love sheet pan meals. That's my go-to for my family, because I'm like, throw it on the sheet pan, put it in the oven, I'm done. Right? Put it in the pot, I'm done. I love stir fries. They're wonderful. You get your vegetables, you get your grains, you get your protein. So think of that ahead of time. Repurpose your leftovers. So this is on the next tile. So mise en place. Anyone ever heard of that? Mise en place? I've been trying to teach my daughter how to cook, and I just taught her this the other day. She's 5. So mise en place is this. It basically, like it sounds, it's like a French word for having all of your ingredients in place. When you are starting to cook, when I first started to cook, I had no idea what I was doing, and it's like, you need a tablespoon of roasted garlic, and I've already like put everything in the pot, and I'm like, oh wait, my garlic isn't like minced yet. I need to get it out. So then I'm like trying to hurry and worry that it's going to burn. And so you want to avoid that. Look at your recipe beforehand, get everything chopped, get everything in place is what mise en place means. So that's like this. You already have it. If you watch cooking shows, they usually have it in like bowls, right? Just sitting there like, okay, this goes in, this goes in, this goes in. That is the way to be a cook. That is going to make meal prep so much easier, right? So spend 2 hours. 2 hours is a good amount of time to devote to this because it's going to take time, right? This is your investment though for your whole week. 2 hours is very little time to save a lot of time later, and also the headache and stress of what am I going to eat? How am I going to eat healthy? So chopping all the vegetables. Make your sauces and marinades homemade. The ones that come in a container, there are some good ones, but they tend to be expensive. And so I think just making your own is way better. You have the control over the flavor and how much salt and fat and sugar go in them, which is the 3 things that they like to put in home and store-bought dressings, right? So you have control over that. Portioning the meats out, preparing seasoning mixes in baggies. So if you do have some turkey chili, maybe you're like, you know what, I want to also do tacos later on in the week with turkey. So I'm going to make my taco seasoning just today so that when it comes time, I have my onions and garlic already prepared in a portion, my meat in a portion, and my taco seasoning is right here. I don't have to think about the ones at the store. Again, have a lot of salt. Okay, sodium, we know, again, is one of those things we want to keep low. Sugar, low. Fat, we want to do heart-healthy oils, like the olive oil, which I'm going to use today. So repurpose your leftovers. You know, if you do have extras. This one had a couple of suggestions. Steak or ham can be eaten with fried eggs in an omelet or a breakfast sandwich. Mashed potatoes can be turned into pancakes. I did not know this, but you can actually put mashed potatoes in a waffle maker and it makes like hash browns. So you could do that. Stuffed peppers can be made into soup and frozen because it's already basically everything you need. You got the rice, you got the meat, you got the veggies, you just throw it in a pot. Maybe you chop it up a little bit more, but you add some broth, there you go. You got a soup or a frozen and freeze it, right? So thinking about repurposing some of your food can definitely help you with this meal prep later on. Don't forget, keep it simple, okay? Don't try and make for your first time a meal prep like I'm gonna make a gourmet meal for the whole week. Don't do that. Just keep it easy, keep it simple. Choose things that you are familiar with, ingredients you're familiar with. Maybe once you become more like advanced with meal prep, then you can start thinking about doing fancier things, but keep it simple. Use the same ingredients more than once. Prepare ingredients ahead of time. Keep a well-stocked pantry and spice drawer. Again, this is an investment, right? Go and get all of the spices that you think you might need. Again, I think bulk sections, often you can buy the spices individually, like in a baggie, depending on what store you're at. And then invest in low sodium broths. Invest in dried beans or canned beans are fine. They save time and money. Just make sure that they're the low sodium or no salt added, or rinse them off really well and drain them, right? So this is an investment, right? Investing in your pantry, your spice drawer, it's gonna make your food flavor way better and also reduce your chances of eating a lot of high sodium and high fat, high sugar. Don't forget again, meal prep tools to invest in. I said microwave safe containers are great for freezing and reheating, so something that's microwave safe, dishwasher safe, freezer safe. These have all 3 of those on here in the very front, should say on it, right? Mason jars are great. They have a whole, I'm sure there's a whole Pinterest about mason jar salads, okay? You can find great salads that you can separate. And they keep the lettuce apart from the dressings because we all know lettuce gets wilty if you have dressing on it. So you just keep the mason jar. I've seen them where they have like the lettuce on the bottom and then the tomatoes and then the onions and then the chickpeas and then and then you have your dressing in a separate container. And then you just put the little bit of dressing in there, shake it up, you have your mason jar salad. Rice cooker is great. Rice is a tricky thing, okay, to get it cooked evenly. Rice cooker is a great investment because you can put all kinds of different things, not just rice in there. And they often come with a steam basket too that you can add to the top. So you can steam and cook rice at the same time. Again, remember doubling up on things. But rice cookers get it cooked evenly, and rice is one of those things you can put in a container and make it mix and match combo with other items. And you get a nice evenly cooked rice. Meat thermometer, food safety. we were talking about like, oh, could we just put it with foil? Okay, maybe, but meat thermometer is gonna just eliminate your like, okay, is this cooked enough? Is it 160 is the magic number, 160 and above. If you're, and it'll tell you on your thermometer, like if you have pork, how high should the temperature be? If you have ground beef, how high should the temperature be? But definitely investing in one of those because you want to know that you are reheating your food to the proper temperatures. I actually do use my thermometer now. No, so yeah, while it's cooking, like you want to use it, and it needs to be up to 160 and above, or 165 and above, in the deepest part of whatever meat you're cooking, right? If it's a chicken breast, it needs to be in the deepest part of that chicken breast. And if you're reheating, make sure you're going in the deepest part of the chicken breast. If you've reheated it for 2 minutes and it's still at like 150, you need another minute or two, right? So while it's cooking, and then if you're reheating after you've reheated it. Measuring, that's not a dumb question at all. Measuring cups and spoons, again, this is gonna make it easy to portion things out. So if you're really trying to like say, okay, I'm gonna eat, because we do have portion sizes and we have portion distortion, so we're often thinking, I'm just gonna eat this whole thing and it's fine. But you really do wanna stick to what your portion size is for your ingredients. Otherwise you're gonna be getting more than what you really need. We don't need a ton of stuff. Food-wise, we need nutrients in our food, but we are eating a lot more than what we need. Any questions on any of that? Thoughts, comments? Is this useful? Okay, I just want to make sure. These are weekly meal plan examples. This is a meal plan example that I just pulled up off the internet. You can Google this. There's a million sites that you can go and get example meal plans, but this one I liked because it was easy. And I feel like people appreciate routine, right? Maybe you feel like, I want to have an exciting breakfast every day. Well, I mean, it just makes it easier if you're eating overnight oats. You can switch it up. Maybe one day you do bananas in your overnight oats, and the next day you do strawberries, right? But this keeps it simple. So this is just an example, and it is on, you probably can't see it because it's tiny, but you can Google, like I said, any number of websites that have similar things.